Last week, I gave you the top 10 rookies from my 2025 rookie rundown, but that was only the beginning. So today, like Ron Jeremy, we're going a little bit deeper.
What did he say?
Looking at 5 more rookies with intriguing landing spots and real paths to fantasy football upside. There is arguably no better feeling in fantasy football than when you land an absolute steal. You get my 2025 Fantasy Football Draft Dominator, which is jam-packed with strategy and analysis for 250-plus players. And he's been strong in fantasy football. He's averaging over 18 fantasy points per game over 25 career games where he's played at least 73% of the offensive snaps. 2025 Week Winner, formerly known as the Heat Map. So you can conquer start-sit dilemmas, find plug-and-play streamers, and dominate your weekly matchups with this one-of-a-kind resource, Discord community, where you can get personalized advice from 180-plus and counting sharp fantasy football minds that are helping each other dominate. 365 days of elite fantasy football analysis, resources, and Discord community. Welcome to episode 55 of Inside the 20 by Basement Brewed Fantasy Football. I'm Mikey Henninger, the guy who quit a comfy corporate gig to build a fantasy football business out of my basement because apparently I hate stability. Last week I gave you the top 10 rookies from my 2025 rookie rundown, but that was only the beginning. So today, like Ron Jeremy, we're going a little bit deeper.
But why? Why would you do that? Why would you do any of that?
Looking at 5 more rookies with intriguing landing spots and real paths to fantasy football upside. And here's the thing. Everything that we're about to discuss today comes straight out of my 2025 rookie rundown, which includes rankings, tiers, and in-depth written analysis for 90-plus incoming rookies. In other words, this episode is merely the crumbs of a much larger, more delicious, double-decker, extra frosting type of cake. If you want the full cake, then what you want is my 2025 rookie rundown, and we left a link for you in the show notes that you can click to go grab it. Let's dive in. Are you a software wizard? A code ninja? A forge master? Or maybe even just a mad scientist? Then come build your career ladder with Infinity Labs, an award-winning technology company, best place to work, and business of the year with best-in-class benefits and compensation. Visit i-labs.tech, that's i-labs.tech today, where you can learn more about Infinity Labs, our expanding national presence, and why the status quo has no hold on us. First up in today's episode is Kaleb Johnson, who checks in at number 11 overall in my 2025 rookie rundown. Now, Kaleb Johnson is a downhill thumper from Iowa who's going from the black and yellow Iowa Hawkeyes to the black and yellow Pittsburgh Steelers, so at least he won't have to get new cleats. Now, Pittsburgh spent a mid-third round pick on Kaleb Johnson, making him the 4th running back off the board in the 2025 NFL Draft, signaling that they likely see him as more than just a depth piece in their running back rotation. And when you look at that backfield post-Najee Harris, it's wide open for a new early down banger to step in and start cracking skulls. And Johnson certainly fits the mold as a physical, north-south type of runner with a no-nonsense running style in short yardage situations. Now, all of that being said, it's not all rainbows and unicorns for Kaleb Johnson. He's not going to step in and be some magical 3-down workhorse. He's notably slow. He's not terrific in pass protection. Those sorts of things will pull him off the field in passing down situations, which is where some of the most valuable touches come from for a running back in fantasy football. Instead, passing down work will likely go to Jaylen Warren, who we already know is plenty effective as a pass catcher in the NFL. And even that is assuming that Kaleb Johnson is even involved in early downs to start the season. There's no saying whether or not the Steelers will slow play the rookie and roll with Jaylen Warren on early downs to start the season. We already know that Jaylen Warren can be plenty effective as a back in the NFL. The Steelers likely haven't forgotten that either. Which, by the way, is why I'm currently fading Kaleb Johnson in 2025 best ball drafts on drafters.com, where Johnson is currently being drafted in the early 7th round around pick 74 overall. Instead, I would much rather grab Jaylen Warren, who's going nearly 2 rounds later at pick 99, especially in PPR formats, which is what you get on platforms like drafters.com. But long term, Jaylen Warren is on only a 1-year contract with the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's no sure thing to be back with the ball club following the 2025 season. In other words, despite my reluctance to grab Kaleb Johnson in 2025 best ball drafts, he's a perfectly fine Dynasty stash, and he sits at number 11 overall in my Dynasty rookie rankings, wrapping up the 4th tier with Matthew Golden, Emeka Egbuka, Luther Burden, and RJ Harvey, each of which we discussed in our last episode. And remember, this breakdown is just one slice of the cake. You want the full rookie rankings, tiers, and detailed analysis for 90 plus incoming rookies? Grab the full 2025 rookie rundown using the link that we left for you in the show notes. Next up is Colston Loveland, who checks in at number 12 in my 2025 rookie rundown and stands alone as the number 1 tight end in the entire rookie class. Loveland is the top tight end in the class by both data and film, and you know that's more rare than a Chicago Bears playoff victory.
You got me.
Now, on the film side of Colston Loveland's evaluation, my guy and film guru John Chapman straight up gushes about Colston Loveland's route running, his playmaking, his toughness. He calls Loveland the best receiving tight end in the entire draft class and highlights how rare it is to see a 240-plus pounder glide through routes like he's a wide receiver. He's big, he's tough, he's physical after the catch, and he plays with the kind of broken play awareness that makes him a perfect match for Caleb Williams, a guy who already specializes in broken plays. Now, the one big knock to Colston Loveland's profile is his run blocking. And with Cole Kmet already under contract, there's definitely a chance that Loveland does not see a full snap share right away come week 1. But the receiving upside? Whew, baby. It's no coincidence that one of Colston Loveland's most common comparisons even before the NFL draft was a guy by the name of Sam Laporta, a guy who finished top 8 in fantasy football in both seasons that he played for Ben Johnson, the new head coach of the Chicago Bears, including the number 1 overall tight end finish as a rookie back in 2023. In Dynasty, Colston Loveland is a high-end fantasy tight end prospect with true top 5 upside long-term, and he kicks off the 5th tier in my Dynasty rookie rankings at 12th overall. But let's talk about 2025 best ball real quick, where Loveland is currently being drafted as the tight end number 10 on drafters.com around pick 114 overall in the mid-10th round. That's a problem. That is a price that I am not willing to pay, at least this year. The cost is just too rich for a rookie tight end on a roster that already has DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, Luther Burden, and of course, Cole Kmet, a guy who could run ahead of Colston Loveland while he takes his rookie lumps. So while I love Colston Loveland in Dynasty leagues, I'll let somebody else reach for him in redraft and in best ball, at least in year 1. Speaking of best ball, come and put your money where your hot takes are. I'm drafting all summer long over on drafters.com. I've already done 150 plus best ball drafts already this season. I have another 55 best ball drafts in progress currently as we speak, and I'd love to go head to head with you in a listener-only best ball league that I'm hosting over on drafters.com. It's the best possible way to sharpen your draft strategy, try out some of these rookie picks, and maybe even dunk on me in the process. So if you want in, smash the link that we left for you in the show notes and be sure to enter promo code BBFF for a 100% match on your first deposit up to $100. It's like getting a free $100 bill to play best ball with, and who doesn't love free money to play fantasy football with? If you have questions, drop them in the comments below. Next up is another incoming rookie tight end, Mr. Tyler Warren, who checks in at number 13 in my 2025 rookie rundown and lands as my tight end number 2, just a smidge behind Colston Loveland in tier 5. Now, Tyler Warren is a 23-year-old prospect out of Penn State and one of the most versatile tight ends in the entire draft class. In fact, John Chapman's film breakdown of Tyler Warren is basically a love montage to the guy, calling him perhaps the most versatile player in the entire NFL draft, not named Travis Hunter. Now, this guy lined up everywhere at Penn State. He lined up in line, out wide, in the slot, in the backfield, special teams. Heck, this guy probably sold concessions at halftime. But let's talk about the landing spot. Now, Tyler Warren was drafted in the first round, 14th overall, by the Indianapolis Colts, a team that, statistically speaking, hates throwing the football when Anthony Richardson is playing quarterback. Last season was their first full-ish season under Anthony Richardson, and they finished 27th in passing attempts, 25th in passing yards, and 25th in passing touchdowns. And in the rare scenarios where they do throw the football, Michael Pittman and Josh Downs are already locked in as the team's top two options in the passing game, limiting the target potential for Tyler Warren. Of course, in 2025, there's no guarantee that Anthony Richardson starts or finishes the 2025 season as the team's QB1. But even if he doesn't, do we really feel confident in the Colts' passing attack, be it volume or efficiency, under Daniel Jones? I don't know. Not me. And that's why, despite liking Tyler Warren's long-term upside in Dynasty leagues, I'm completely out on Tyler Warren in 2025 best ball leagues on drafters.com, where he's currently being drafted as fantasy's tight end number 12 around pick 124 overall in the early 11th round. Instead, I would rather just wait and grab guys like Tucker Kraft, Jake Ferguson, Dallas Goedert, Dalton Kincaid, or Kyle Pitts, all of which go after Tyler Warren in current 2025 best ball leagues. But long term, Anthony Richardson is closer to losing his job than he is to signing a contract extension, and Michael Pittman could be playing his final season in a Colts uniform. Warren does have a long-term opportunity to be a top target in what is hopefully a better passing attack in future years. And he's every bit worthy of a top 13 pick in your Dynasty rookie drafts. And by the way, if you're on the clock in your Dynasty rookie drafts and you just can't quite decide between Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren, don't stress. I've got a whole squad of fantasy football nerds in my Discord community just waiting to give you 17 opinions in about 6 minutes time. If you're interested in joining our fantasy football Discord community, just drop Discord in the comments below and I'll get in touch with more details. Next up is Jayden Higgins, who checks in at number 14 overall in my 2025 rookie rundown. He slots in as my wide receiver 6, joining Colston Loveland and Tyler Warren in tier 5. Higgins is a big-bodied wide receiver out of Iowa State, standing 6'4" and 214 pounds, and now the Houston Texans grabbed him early in round 2 with the 34th overall pick in the NFL draft, indicating that they see something they like. And so do I. Higgins has excellent hands, smooth route running, and shows surprising burst for a man of his size. In John Chapman's film study, he notes that Higgins looks like an NFL-ready possession receiver who is strong through the catch point, physical, and a true quarterback's best friend. Now, his yak ability isn't anything special. He's more of a freight train than a Ferrari. But he wins before and during the catch, and that's what gets a guy on the football field. There's clearly plenty of upside to Higgins' game if he lands in the right role, but unfortunately that's where things get a little bit tricky. You see, Houston also drafted Higgins' college teammate Jalen Noel, who also just so happened to be Iowa State's primary slot receiver. And earlier this offseason, the Texans acquired Christian Kirk, who has basically called dibs on the slot role wherever he goes at this point in his career. So unless the Texans get really creative with their personnel, Higgins might get pushed to the outside, and that's not necessarily a good thing for Higgins historically. You see, according to both JJ Zachariason and Pro Football Focus, Higgins was significantly less effective as an outside receiver than he was when he got a chance to run from the slot. As a slot receiver at Iowa State, he averaged 2.77 yards per route run from the slot, but only 2.25 yards per route run when he played out wide. And now with Christian Kirk in town, the most likeliest outcome for Higgins, at least in year 1, is that he'll play on the outside, giving us inconsistent boom or bust weeks with some frustrating stat lines along the way. So if we're talking boom or bust, then we gotta talk about best ball, at least for a quick minute. On drafters.com, Higgins is currently being drafted as Fantasy's wide receiver 53 around pick 105 overall, aka a late 9th round pick. And to be frank, I'm fine with that cost.
I'm fine! Totally fine! I don't know why it's coming out all loud and squeaky, because really, I'm fine.
I guess. I'm in no way pounding the table to get him in best ball leagues at that cost, but if he does start to fall a little bit below ADP, then I will absolutely scoop up a share or two, even if it's only to keep some exposure to a CJ Stroud-led Houston Texans offense. You just won't catch me reaching into round 8 thinking I found the next Nico Collins. That ain't it. But all in all, while I'm not banging the table to get Higgins in best ball contests, I'd absolutely be excited to get Higgins in the top of the second round of my Dynasty rookie drafts. And remember, all of this is just a crumb of what you'll find in the 2025 rookie rundown, which includes my rankings, my tiers, and my write-ups for more than 90 incoming NFL rookies. You can grab the 2025 rookie rundown using the link that we left for you in the show notes. And finally, let's talk about Tre Harris, who checks in at number 15 overall in my 2025 rookie rundown, joining Colston Loveland, Tyler Warren, and Jayden Higgins in tier 5 as my wide receiver 7 in this year's rookie class. Now, Tre Harris stands 6'2", 205 pounds. He's a deep threat out of Ole Miss, drafted in the second round by the Los Angeles Chargers. And if there's one thing that you can say about Tre Harris, it's that the guy makes gigantic plays. We're talking historically gigantic plays. You see, according to JJ Zachariason, Harris posted a yards per route run rate of over 5.0, which is by far the best that PFF has ever recorded for a Power 5 wideout that ran at least 100 routes. I mean, 5 yards per route run. That's not a statistic. That is Pablo Sanchez running the hocus pocus power-up in backyard football. But of course, like Dwight Clark, there's a catch. There are some red flags here when evaluating Tre Harris as an incoming prospect. For starters, he'll already be 23 and a half years old when the NFL season begins. Now, that's not necessarily geriatric, but it's definitely not young either. He also battled hip, groin, and knee injuries that shortened his 2024 season, and as you know, lower body injuries have a tendency to linger. And most importantly for Tre Harris's development at the next level, John Chapman notes that he ran a pretty limited route tree in college, basically just running the hitch, the slant, the post, and the go route. In other words, Harris essentially majored in the route tree for dummies playbook in college. And then, of course, at least in the short term, there's the landing spot, right? Tre Harris is landing in a Greg Roman offense that's finished 28th or lower in passing attempts in 10 of the 11 seasons that he's been an offensive coordinator in the NFL. And when they do throw the football, Tre Harris will compete with Quentin Johnston and Mike Williams, who are 2 former first-round picks, competing for targets behind last year's 34th overall pick, Ladd McConkey. In other words, Harris is far from a sure bet to enter the season as the team's wide receiver 2 or even wide receiver 3 in an offense that doesn't even want to throw the ball to begin with. But when you're talking about a guy who averaged 5 yards per route run, there's plenty of reason to believe that Harris can do some very real damage on very limited looks, giving him a shaky floor but a really, really exciting ceiling. In other words, Harris has best ball written all over him, so let's talk about it. On drafters.com, Tre Harris is currently being drafted as Fantasy's wide receiver 54 around pick 108 overall, aka right around that 9th and 10th round turn. And my approach to Tre Harris in best ball at this point is the same as it was when we were talking about Jayden Higgins. I'm fine with the cost, but I'm certainly not reaching for him. Now, if he starts slipping below ADP, sure, I'm going to scoop up a share or two just to keep my portfolio interesting, but I'm not the guy that's smashing that draft button in round 8. It's just not happening. Bottom line, Tre Harris brings elite vertical efficiency in an offense that simply may not throw very much, but when they do, he has the tools to make it count. Don't go expecting any sort of week-to-week consistency, but if you catch him on the right day, he just might win your week. That's going to do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed this episode and you want to support the effort, Give it a like, drop a comment below, and subscribe to the Basement Brood Fantasy Football YouTube channel. I will see you on the fantasy football field next week. Cheers, this brew's for you.